How you see yourself is how you perceived. I see a man strong, gifted, head strapping, never down on his knees, begging. Gotta make a way, even in my darkest hour. Say the odds against me was new. I would never cower.
Now, my only question with this whole thing is, are all 15
incredible or just
Oh, so
I mean,
all right.
we all know Premier is a made man in terms of hip hop production.
Mm-hmm.
But I might argue, incredible. Does he really have an incredible beat?
Wow,
like,
wow.
I think
We're going there, huh?
Beats,
We're going there.
But I don't know if they've been incredible where you're just like, oh my God, this is the sound of the next generation, or this is the sound for the next 2-3 years.
All right, so
he's had some really good beats.
All right,
is
so
what I would say.
So, listen, I have to go back to what I said before too. Incredible by my standard of what I expect from Nas, what I expect from Premier. Like, if incredible meaning, is he going to have a beat that's going to bring the best lyrics out of Nas? There's not so much incredible by like I'm not worried about if it's going to change the way, you know, the masses feels about Premier or Nas. It's about, is he going to bring the lyrics out of Nas where you're like, okay, this Nas is in pocket. You know, so like certain records that he did, like New York State of Mind Part 2, Nas was in pocket. Nas was extremely in pocket. I want to hear Nas in pocket. Nas feeling like he's back in Queensbridge in the pissy staircase, pissy elevators. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking for, Premier.
That's where we may disagree. I don't want to hear that. I don't need to hear that. Nas is probably the better answer to that. What I need to hear is Nas at this stage, but using his skill set to articulate kind of like what's going on. Like, I'm okay if he doesn't sound like It Ain't Hard to Tell and The Message, because I don't think he needs to be sounding like that right now, especially with the fact that he's transcended or evolved from that environment. Like, it's an unrealistic expectation, you know, just like we're talking about with Mano and Jim Jones and how they dress. You know, they continually place themselves in those environments, so of course they're going to dress like that. So the same thing with Nas. He's elevated his game. He has, you know, a venture capitalist company. I don't want to hear him. I think there'd be something wrong if he was still rhyming like, you know, Live at the Barbecue per se. I don't need Live at the Barbecue. I need more the Hit Boy, the Hit Boy commentary and rap. You know what I mean?
Listen, this is why this discussion, this album is gonna speak volumes on so many levels. And I hear what you're saying, and yes, Nas obviously, I would say obviously, I know nothing is obvious, but based on the track listing with the titles, with having just the last song. Matter of fact, the last song is Third Childhood. So that lets me know Nas is going to be the Nas like you mentioned earlier, where he evolves and he's current with the times as far as age appropriate, like you mentioned. That was the term you used, age appropriate. Nas, I'm expecting him to be age appropriate. Do I expect to hear Nas like I Gave You Power Nas, which by the way was a Premier produced track? I don't expect to hear that Nas. I don't expect to hear Nas sounding like he's from Illmatic or from It Was Written, because we didn't hear that even on the Hit Boy projects, although there was a glimpse of it on, I want to say, Magic 1 with, I think the song is Speechless, right? On that record, that was a glimpse of that ability from Nas lyrically, especially on the first verse. But I think Nas is Nas, and when I say Premier bring out the Nas, I think Nas could still be relevant. Not relevant's not the right word. He could still deliver something that's relevant to his age and where he's at now. You know, I know I reference, you know, him sounding like he's back in Queensbridge. What I'm talking about is that that grit. I think he could still, because he's on a different level when it comes to delivery and the way he presents himself. I think he could still deliver the poetic person who was revered in universities, you know, for his lyrics. I think he could still be that and still paint that picture on a Premier track relevant to 2025 and beyond. again, also with this title, Light Years, that's what I'm expecting. Because when you say Light Years, you can't now do a full album produced by Premier and sound like we're trying to reinvent the 90s. That won't make any sense. So I'm expecting Nas to sound light years in what he's talking about, his content, which is going to be, insightful, because that's the type of artist he is. He's not just going to be talking about the latest fashion, I just bought a new car or a truck or something like that. That's not Nas. He's not going to talk about playing the block, but I expect to hear him lyrically paint that picture like a Picasso, the way Nas can. So that's what I'm looking for. And that's what I'm looking for Premier to pull out. Pull out that hunger of expression and articulating himself and painting that picture where when we listen to it, we could close our eyes and say, man, Nas took us there. He took us into that boardroom meeting to acquire the casino, that type of stuff, but did it in a gritty way. That's what I'm looking for. And that's what I'm hoping for. It says Light Years, so this is they put the pressure on with their title. They chose to make it called Light Years, because trust me, this is why I'm on the fence and I'm 50-50 with this. He's definitely rolling the dice on this one, calling it Light Years and doing a fully produced Premier album right after Hit Boy. And I stand on that, and I say that respectfully, because he could have said Light Years and then had some Premier tracks and had some produced tracks from other producers, and that would have been like, okay, let's see what he's coming with, but to do it fully with Premier and then call it Light Years, I don't even know what to expect. And I do like the fact that he didn't put out a single. At first I was like, what's going on? Off record, we were talking about the fact that last week I was like, yo, he didn't drop one record yet. What's going on with this? But they're doing it for a reason, and I like what's going on so far. I like to see that AZ's on the album. That is
that's dope.
Yeah,
Great song.
AZ's on a song called My Story, Your Story. And I like the fact that AZ's on there, because that's a testament. And this is another thing we spoke about, I think, off record. Oh no, I think we spoke about this on the episode when we were discussing the casino. That's a testament to Nas and his loyalty to the people that's in his circle, especially if they're solid people. And he stays with them along the journey, and name an artist that you could say does that. For those of you watching this episode, tell me an artist that's had a run like Nas, who is putting out a project at this time in 2025, and he's still working with artists that he worked with on his first album. What say you, cuz?
That's a hell of a transition and a comment. Him and AZ were always gold. It's a shame that we never got more from them, maybe, or maybe not, because it makes it even more timeless when they come together. But I will say that, a lot of things you just referenced are exactly. Nas is an artist, so if he feels the art, he doesn't force it. He is not the Andy Warhol like Jay is. He is the Basquiat. He's going to leave you with masterpieces and leave it at that. You have to figure it out. He's not going to mass produce his art. It's not necessarily for the masses. Although it reaches them, it's not necessarily for the masses. But what I would say about this, to summarize it, is that I feel that personally, a lot of this just rides on DJ Premier and his mentality and his approach with this project. I think Nas is going to do what he always does. He's going to give him material and lyrics to work with, and it's going to be up to Premier to decide on the direction and kind of like the flavor of what he wants to put out. Very similar to Hit Boy. We keep talking about the fact that Hit Boy produced Nas, and we had this great run. But when you think about it, a huge amount of that credit has to go to Hit Boy, obviously, because he had a vision in mind. He had a feel for Nas that so far no other producer he's worked with on a whole album or project has. And he just went with it. Each beat, kind of molded to Nas's temperament at the time of the song. Nothing that's formulaic. We don't have no Hit Boy doesn't necessarily have a rhyme and a reason to his sounds. I think you do know it's a Hit Boy sound, but each one is slightly different. I don't know how to explain his style as we're producing, but I think he's locked into the moment and the match in the moment, and he captures that really well. So I think that, once again, I think Nas will come with the lyrics. I don't think there'll be an issue with that, the writing. I do think that ultimately the reviews are going to be that Premier's trapped in, the boom bap era of rap, and he wasted an opportunity with one of the greats, is what I would more likely bet is going to be the reviews saying about his work with Nas.
Let me ask you something. And just off of me looking at the track list, which I know you didn't get a chance to see it yet. So I'm looking, and AZ's the only feature. Do you have any concerns about the fact that Nas didn't have any other features? Or do you think
that's historically that's Nas. He stayed true to that. I don't think we can. He has not been a feature artist ever. He does not work with other people. I think not necessarily on purpose, but that's just him. He doesn't need anyone else in his art. You know what I mean?
Okay. You have any reservations about the project, or you just you're gonna just sit back and wait to see what happens?
I'm just gonna sit back and wait to see what happens. The reservations I have will reveal themselves. Like I said before, I just think that he's trapped from a DJ standpoint. I do believe that Premier is in a second or third childhood from a production standpoint. And I know all producers have a certain sound. Beethoven has a sound, Future has a sound, but we've heard way more evolution and I think greater work from those guys I just mentioned than Premier, I would say. Especially if you look at like a Future and how he's influenced a whole another generation of producers into the now moment. You know what I mean? Like Premier is really a relic, a throwback to the old ways or old days. And I don't necessarily think he's influenced the new generation. He's just consistently giving homage to the old generation.
Right.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it's just not necessarily something that is moving the art form forward. Yeah, it's not something that's moving the art form forward.
He's sought after by some artists just off of nostalgia.
True.
So like Griselda, I want to say Westside Gunn has worked with him. Obviously the recent project with Ransom. So artists that are fans of the hip hop of old, they'll reach out to DJ Premier, but like you said, and I agree, he's not necessarily looking for new talent to showcase how they sound over his beats. He's not. They're reaching out to him. It's the opposite way. And I don't know if that if anyone watching this episode agrees that's how it should be. That artists reach out to him, but he's not necessarily. He's comfortable just being Premier. He's not looking to. I don't see him extending himself to lay his sound on newer rappers or for their audiences. I don't see him doing that. He hasn't shown that throughout the years.
I kind of think that artists are reaching out to him kind of is the wrong terminology there, because it almost sounds like artists are reaching out to Future or artists are reaching out to the Migos, like it's or Drake to do a collabo. That's not the same. We've mentioned two underground rappers per se caught in a certain era. I don't think there's a lot of artists that are reaching out to Premier necessarily. I think Premier's work more so comes from producers who may need help with something, so they reach out to him. But I don't think any major artists or artists in enough volume to make that statement like even worthwhile saying. He's not getting reached out by a lot of people. Hence why Nas is trying to throw him a bone to work with him now.
So it's almost it's almost like saying the same thing I just said. So no major artists are reaching out to him right now, because the major artists, most of them are retired, the ones from his era. No young artists are reaching out to him, which it's like what you just said. No one's reaching out to him. But the artists that I did mention that reach out to him, although they're more on the underground tier, Ransom, West Side Gun, and maybe Conway has used him. I'm not even sure. Maybe Benny the Butcher's used him, and I don't know. My point is that they reached out to him on a nostalgia thing because they are fans of the hip hop of old. Their sounds similar to the hip hop of old, which makes sense for their brand. But that again, that it's like one and the same of what I'm just saying. No one is reaching out to him to well, he's not reaching out to anyone to lend his beat on a new sound. He doesn't care for that. So he's just staying in where his comfort zone is, and the artists that I mentioned, regardless of what level they're on, they're reaching out to him. Same thing like
I'm saying, I don't even think he's staying in a comfort zone. He's forced to stay in a comfort zone. Two different things. It's not like he has the ability to do that. He has no ability to do that. So he's in a zone where he's got to do. Whose fault is that, though? Huh?
Whose fault is that?
His.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be his fault. You know?
Yeah.
That would be his fault. No one, he has the opportunity, he has the name to take chances.
That's what I'm saying, though. I don't think he has the opportunity to force himself on new artists because he just doesn't have the skill set to produce for them.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. So he would if he reinvents himself. If he's making new sounds, then new artists would probably try to seek him the same way that the ones that respect the 90s era, like Griselda and Ransom, reach out to him. Had he diversified his brand, then this discussion would be a little bit different. But it's still, the onus is still on him.
Right.
It's still on him. Which is why I said that, like, he's comfortable in his skin and where where he's at, because he hasn't tried to shift anything. He's just been Premier, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Some people might like that. Some people like the fact that, and I know I'm referencing basketball. Some people are fans of staying loyal to that one brand, like how Kobe stayed on the Lakers. Some people are just fans of that, regardless of how what you think about his play towards the end, which I think he was still doing his thing to a degree. Some people just like that. So Premier, I think that's part of his brand. He's like, I'm staying right here. Take it or like it or hate it. That's his brand.
Wait, Jokic leads the league in assists? Come on, man, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't even know he was that relevant. But listen, that's my take on this whole thing. I don't have anything else to say. I think the fact that they're staying silent and then they put out a record, I like that because and by the way, I have to say, who started this whole drop without a single? Is that something new? I know Magna Carta dropped, and I think Magna Carta, we didn't even know was coming out, if I'm not mistaken. It just dropped. Right? Oh, no. Oh, am I wrong on that? Who started this?
It didn't just drop. He timed it with a promotion for T-Mobile. He had tied his album drop to new subscribers or some crap like that when they got a T-Mobile. So once again... Right.
But there was no track list, so I was a fan of that.
He kind of did the whole thing, so he kind of set it up where it was more commercialized. So
yeah, but listen, I'm a fan of this. I'm a fan of the drops without us knowing anything, and I'm also a fan of this type of drop where we don't get a single, but we get the track list. So we just sitting here waiting, drooling at the mouth for what we're going to hear on Friday.
I think I personally would prefer if they just dropped and we had no build up. We had no idea. You wake up in the morning and kind of like what Drake did, by the time you're reading this, it's too late. He dropped, period. I think that to me is my favorite type of promotion where you give the fans something, You give them no time to basically marinate or have these discussions like we're having. And you just allow them to listen to the music and react real time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think if you're going to drop and you're not dropping any singles, this is the way you have to do it. You just got to just drop. Have the album complete, have everything kind of under wraps, and then just drop it. Because I think that's really like where we're headed in terms of straight to consumer, marketing, especially for hip hop artists. Just drop the album.
I think that's risky if you haven't established a fan base. I think that's risky. I like it though, and I think Nas did that already with Hit Boy with the. I want to say Magic 1 just dropped out of nowhere. I don't know if I can't recall whether or not the King's Disease projects dropped like that, but I know Magic 1. I woke up one day and I was like, "What is this?" And it was like Magic 1 was up. I think it was either Magic 1 or one of the Magic albums just dropped out of nowhere, and I remember seeing it on YouTube, and I was like, "What is this?" And I was like pleasantly surprised. I was like, "Oh, Nas dropped another one," But yeah, this is just my take on it for the well-known artists. I think that's a wonderful thing. It keeps everyone on their toes. It's especially in December. You're dropping in December. For me, this is a Christmas gift. I could get nothing. I could get socks for Christmas, and I'm fine because Nas is dropping on Friday. So happy Queen's Day. Friday's actually Happy Queen's Day. I'm coining that. That's Happy Queen's Day. This Friday. So those of you not from Queens, you're welcome to join. Sit at the table. We got love for everyone. But listen, if you're not on the level of Nas, Jay-Z, or you don't have a fan base established, just dropping out of nowhere to me is risky. But what do I know? It's 2025. I don't know, how this music is moving now with the streaming and stuff like that. Things are different now, so maybe that's the way to do it. But to each his own.
Yeah, I think that there's not this physical music anymore. So even by dropping all of a sudden, you're not really hurting yourself because most people are consuming it by streaming it. And the word's going to get around, especially for a lesser known artist. All they have is probably their online community anyway. So you dropping all of a sudden creates that fervor among the people in the know, and then that fervor potentially brings other people along with you. So I think that, to your point, just the way the distribution works nowadays, it's a whole different story. You drop whenever you feel like it on your platform, and you just go for it from there. I think the social media aspect of it and the engagement is more beneficial to you by these random surprises. If you got a fan base that doesn't know what you're doing, and all of a sudden you could drop, at the turn of the dime, they're going to be a little more likely to be tuned into you every moment, because at the drop of the dime, they can receive something from you and things like that. So I think it plays into this current era of social media engagement. When you reward your fans with gifts or things, surprises, it keeps them on their toes. It makes you less predictable. So I think it works.
Well, you know what? Thank you for being my unofficial A&R. And I know this is a Nas album review reaction episode, but thank you for being my unofficial A&R. So for those of you watching this episode, if you haven't been following my platforms, I've been giving you little snippets of my videos for my project that I'm dropping next year, 2026, The Harvest. Thanks to what he just said, I will not disclose the date it's dropping, but it's just gonna drop along with the videos. I'm gonna drop the videos unexpectedly, and I'm gonna drop the project unexpectedly, but they will all drop in 2026. And I think I'm gonna go with that, because why not? It's a legacy piece, and I just want to share it with the world. So, G, I appreciate you for joining this time on the episode via audio, and we will definitely run it back after Friday, after Queen's Day, and we'll discuss it further. But I can't wait. I can't wait. This is an early Christmas gift for me, and I thank Nas, I thank DJ Premier, I thank Mass Appeal, and I thank AZ for giving me this early Christmas gift. You have anything you want to say in closing?
Nah, that's it. No doubt.
All right. As always, as always, everyone watching this episode, I appreciate you all. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, hit the subscribe button. If you like to share your thoughts on the project, I'm all for it. I'll be in the comment section. I'll respond as soon as I can. And as always, stay honorable and tell a friend to tell a friend. I drop episodes daily at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Take care.